Welcome back to the Financial Symmetry Show. Today, we're talking to do-it-yourselfers, right? That is a big question. We've had a lot of conversations since the beginning of the year. People coming in to see us for the first time, they've been doing their financial planning themselves, and they are wondering, why should I be working with an advisor, right? They've seeked us out because there likely was a situation they've encountered, something that maybe woke them up in the middle of the night. They were like, I don't know, I'm not feeling 100% confident about this anymore.
It's that time of year. It's beginning of the year. You have your New Year's resolutions. Should I hire an advisor? Should I do it on my own? Today, we're going to talk about the pros and cons and some things to think about as you make that decision yourself.
So, interesting stat for you.
Okay. I love stats.
30 to 40% of Americans now are using a financial advisor.
Okay.
This is from Investopedia. And younger adults are especially likely to go it alone at this point. So you are the people that we're talking to. We want to help you understand why we work with around 900 clients here and have for 26 years, because we've often will refer to it as this. This is the overarching theme, right? It's either a time, interest, or knowledge type of an equation, right? If you have all three of those in your corner, you're likely doing it yourself and you felt very good about it. But there comes a time often that one of those starts to tweak a little bit and you're thinking, I'm not sure if I have enough time left. I don't know if I really want to be spending my time doing this anymore, even though I have the knowledge to do it. So hopefully we can walk through some of these sections today and give you a peek behind the curtain, right, from a financial advisor and how we've had a lot of these conversations. So, okay, Mike, let's talk about why do-it-yourselfers prefer to go solo. That's what we're moving into here.
I always say it's easier to do nothing, right? You can set it and forget it, just not have to worry about it, move along your day, set up your 401k, think you're saving enough. Not really concern yourself with, do I have enough life insurance? Am I doing everything from a tax perspective? Am I on track to retire on time? Am I spending too much? It's easier to not do anything. I think that's the easiest part. I think for a lot of folks that get to a point that their life becomes more complex, there's more risk of screwing up. And so they realize maybe it's now a time that I need to find a professional. But I think the set it and forget it crowd, a lot of times, just that's the easy thing to do.
I think number two, I could have put this as number one, maybe, because this is a big question we discussed right up front. It's on our website too. You can see how much we charge, but many times do-it-yourselfers are worried about the fee that they have to pay a financial advisor and what that ultimately is going to get them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. We were joking before. I mean, I'm very frugal myself, as I think Chad is too. So you don't want to pay for something you're not getting the value. And I think we'll walk through a little bit as we go through the podcast of the ways a financial advisor can help you, besides just obviously the investment component. But the question is, if that the fee is more looked at as like an investment in your future, if that advice offsets that cost, will you be better off? And that's something to ask yourself. Like when I get sick, do I check WebMD or do I go to the doctor? I prefer to go to professional, even though I can go online. And that's something to ask yourself. Is your financial life important enough that it's worth having, investing in the future through using a fiduciary financial advisor?
And then you get into that next reason that people try to do it or want to do it themselves. And it's the control factor. They're just not ready to give up control to anybody else because things have seemed to be working up to this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to have someone else make decisions for you. I think everywhere in life, people like to control their, where they go to dinner or where they go on vacation. And now you're having someone who's making decisions with your investments that you have saved, or telling you what to do with taxes or how much insurance to buy. I think that is something where we'll talk about in a second, but finding that trusted professional, such as a firm. Obviously, I'm going to be biased towards a firm like Financial Symmetry, which is a fee-only wealth management firm. Having that trusted professional with the experience and expertise that you can trust, that saying like this recommendation they're providing is in your best interest, will help you get over that trust issue.
Sometimes I think there's a misunderstanding of what a financial advisor does because there's so many different types of investment advisors, insurance professionals, wealth managers, and you're not exactly sure where you fit within that type of professional. And if you're looking for the right thing. So I think sometimes that stops you from even stepping in your foot in the door.
It's confusing, and that's partially our fault as an industry. Like I mentioned, you check ChatGPT, and there are 300,000 financial advisors today. Now, anyone can call themselves a financial advisor. You take that number, only 100,000 are what's called certified financial planners or CFPs. That means they pass extensive education and experience requirements. And then on top of that, the members here at Financial Symmetry are members of NAPFA, which is a fee-only financial planning firm. Only 5,000 members are there. So you take that 300,000, there is a small subset that I would argue do real comprehensive planning like we do.
Yeah. And I mean, in today's day and age, many people are now using chat GPT
Yeah.
or
Well, I just did answer that question.
right to basically answer any financial planning question. So, but can you trust the advice, and is it customizable to you? Is it personalized to your situation? And that's where we go deep with clients and understanding not only the financial planning aspect, but also the tax planning and estate planning. We're going to get into some of those details. The last one here is just the fear sometimes of being judged, maybe about how you've handled finances in the past. Everybody has a little bit of guilt around certain decisions they might have made. But if you don't get it all out on the table and understand where you are, how are you going to know where you're going? So that's
everyone makes mistakes.
And honesty and transparency are what start a nice long-term relationship to build that wealth. So that's what we're focused on here, and hopefully helping you understand the value behind the fee today. So let's go through some of the reasons that people seek out a financial advisor, right? Okay. So I've made a list here of all of the conversations that we've had, or I've had mostly since the beginning of the year. And these were the questions that started, I guess, the person looking for this service or looking for financial symmetry in this case. First question, will I have enough to retire? How am I going to know that?
That's a big question. I don't know if I would trust a computer. I don't know if I would trust my own expertise without being a financial advisor to answer that question. As a financial advisor, I have my own financial advisor to help answer that question. So that is probably maybe the most important question for someone to ask, assuming they do want to stop working at some point.
Interestingly enough, that person also said, hey, I ran the online calculators. I feel pretty good about it, but I still don't have 100% confidence in that. So I'd really like to understand any of the intricacies and your wisdom and knowledge in working with other clients to help us make that decision. So the next one, am I saving enough to pay for college?
Great question. Can you answer that? I have 4 kids myself, and one in college, one on our way. That's a big question. And, is it too much? Is it too little? What are the options? The college planning landscape has changed a lot since you and I went to school. So it's good to have, an expert in your corner providing advice on how much you actually can pay. Because the last thing you want to do is tell your child they can attend a school that's a certain price, and then it end up impacting your ability to retire at your own timing.
Yeah, so much of that is the clarity and the communication and expectations, right? So, but understanding what you can do for your child is important, and talking through that. Now, this next one is one that we put a lot more emphasis on, and it's a question almost every person will ask, and I think they probably find us sometimes for this reason. But it's around tax planning, and the question generally is, what other tax savings options are available to me? Because I feel like I'm getting killed in taxes.
It's every person we speak with, client and prospect, brings up this exact point. No one wants to pay more. They're willing to pay taxes, but they don't want to pay more taxes than they have to. And that's where the benefit of having a tax team such as we do, or if you're working with someone else that has those experts, those CPAs or enrolled agents, to make sure that you're optimizing your situation. It's not now when you complete your taxes, it's actually during the year. This is when you can make those changes.
And this next one is near and dear to my heart because I've worked with a lot of people. We're fortunate to work here in the Research Triangle Park. A lot of the corporations offer stock compensation as part of their pay package, and it comes in waves. It comes in different forms. There's a lot of confusion around it, when you get it, how it's taxed. So these conversations generally center around, how should I be handling my company stock? It's really built up, and I feel like it's a big piece of my portfolio now, and I'm not sure if I should have this much in it. And I'm also not sure how best to exit it efficiently.
I mean, these are great examples of, having a financial plan, working with an advisor. Should you hold it? Should you sell it? There's some tax implications either way. Should you, exercise and hold, which could be some benefits there depending on the types of options. But these are examples of where, as your life evolves, it becomes more complex. And that's the great time to reach out to someone like, Financial Symmetry.
And then it's these situations where, I love meeting with these people because they've often been in fortunate situations where they've been able to save quite a bit of money, but it's in a bank account, and they feel like they're missing out but they're not sure of what to do with this money that's been building in the bank account. Now, it could be from business, a really successful business situation they've been in where they're making more than they've ever made because their business is being very successful. It could be a retiree that has saved a lot and is just not confident in the future of how things are looking in the current geopolitical environment, right? So so it can be different reasons here on this one.
Yeah, I mean, cash is great for emergencies. If you need money in the short term for some specific goal, like college or an expense coming up. But keep in mind, money in the bank is likely losing money every day after inflation and taxes. So, is that the best use of it? Is there different options? Maybe paying down debt, maybe investing it. That's something where a financial advisor can help provide that advice that can make you make smart decisions. Because a lot of folks have the analysis paralysis, where the easiest thing is to not do anything, which is only going to impact you more in the longer term.
Yeah, and then this last one is a little different because we talk to a lot of people. They have the knowledge, right? They understand and they've read and implemented things up to this point, but life has really gotten busy. Times it says the most chaos, and they'd rather be spending time doing things, not paying attention to their financial planning. I think that's probably a bigger contingent of people that we're meeting with these days. So that's the last conversation I've had this year around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one I get a lot. The complexity, as you're think about when you start out of, let's say, college, you were just focusing on, having enough to pay the bills month to month and saving maybe a little bit in your 401k. Fast forward 20 or 30 years from now, you own stock options, you own a business, your assets have grown, you're trying to pay for the kids' college, you're trying to figure out when you could retire. Your life becomes a lot more complex. And that complexity means making a mistake is a lot more risky. You maybe get a mulligan when you play golf, but you don't really get a mulligan in life. And so this is a time where you don't want to make that mistake that you're going to pay the price for the next 10 or 20 years.
So we've been through some of the reasons that people do it themselves and also seek out an advisor. But there's still that remaining question of what does a financial advisor fee actually buy me, right? Where is the value in this relationship? So we've listed a couple things here in the different conversation, more than a couple. Actually, it's quite a long list, but we'll walk through a couple of examples under each one. I think that might be helpful for people to see. So the first one here is really one that you might not think about, or you might see on a commercial and they reference the idea of goals, but it really is about helping people prioritize these ambiguous ideas and goals that they've had to put real dollars behind it and say, pat on the back. Yeah, this looks good. I think you should go ahead and go through with this.
Yeah, it provides a peace of mind. What is the money for? Helping you decide what are your goals and how you're going to achieve them. And so puts that peace of mind for you as the individual that you're on track. But one thing I'll say before we kind of jump through this list, if you are thinking about talking to an advisor, and I recommend talking to multiple, it's great to get multiple opinions, really understand what you get for what you pay for. Because it's not every advisor is the same. Some will provide more comprehensive services like financial symmetry, where we'll get through some of the details here. And some will just focus on investments and maybe some light other work. So you really want to focus on one that can provide more of a comprehensive analysis to your situation.
Many will say they do financial planning, but when we get deep into the scenario planning, it's very interesting to have that collaborative meeting where you can throw out different ideas and say, okay, well, what if we bought, a second home at this price level? Oh, well, actually, the plan looks really great. Maybe we can go higher, right? So it's having that confidence to move forward and know, okay, this isn't going to torpedo my life, or I'm not going to have to work until I'm 70 or 75 to accomplish it. That's another aspect, because retiring early and those second homes seem to be some of those bigger goals. I know there's a lot of other options and examples, but those are at the top of the list in some of the scenario planning. All right, our second topic, we referenced it earlier, these advanced tax saving strategies that we walk through.
I have yet to, I don't say yet, but it's very rare we meet a new client or a prospect that is doing everything they can be doing on the tax side. There's always something that, maybe through some new tax laws, we just had a new tax bill last year that is changing, that that the individual has not taken advantage of those opportunities yet. So our job as a resource, or whoever you're working with, is making sure you're minimizing your lifetime taxes. And so that's where a really good comprehensive planner can help you there.
I'd say the average person may understand the diversification of their investments, but they don't understand the diversification of how they build up the tax savings. And that's a key element when you're starting to withdraw from accounts. It's a completely different mindset, and one that we help people feel confident about when they're moving into that stage. So the next one, near and dear to your heart here, right? Personalized investment strategies is a very important piece in the whole pie of financial planning, wealth management.
Yeah, I mean, end of the day, in today's environment, most folks have a 401k or some kind of savings. The pension plans are days of many years ago. That savings, the success of your portfolio is going to be a big driver of how long you need to work and how much you can spend, and potentially how much heirs or charity would inherit at your passing. But having that right approach is going to make a big difference. And a lot of times, you know, it's not the perfect investment plan, it's your behavior around that plan. And we see a lot of times having that objective third party, which is why Chad and I are not our own even advisors, is help to find those areas of weakness you're not realizing in your portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, headlines this week, right? You can get a question from somebody. Should we be making changes right now? Right? Is there rebalances that need to happen? New choices in my 401k. Should I be thinking about those? How should I be factoring that into the situation? So, too conservative, too aggressive right now, depending on it. There's all these different conversations that can creep up during the year, and those are important to. And if you're working with an advisor, you should have an understanding of where you are on that front, because there should be open communication around that. The next one, you mentioned this earlier on the opportunity side, but I framed this a little bit differently because it's from the investment perspective, is having a team to help you not miss opportunities that you might if you didn't have that team behind you.
When the markets decline, they're on sale. That's a good thing. If you are a saver, you want market declines. Ask yourself, what did you do in April of 2025 during the tariff tantrum? What did you do in 2022 when the market was down, given the inflation was at 9%? What did you do in March of 2020 when we had the initial COVID wave and the markets declined 34%? Like, if you didn't do anything, you're missing out on opportunities. And that's where an advisor can help with rebalancing, deciding when to buy. Is tax loss harvesting, getting back to taxes, is an opportunity or situation. So those can make big impact to your portfolio over the long term by taking advantage of those buying opportunities.
Even outside of the investments, taxes, financial planning, often risk starts to creep up as a topic of feeling you don't necessarily have the finger on the pulse of how that is structured in your life, especially when you have children. Maybe especially when you have teenage drivers. Are you handling things in the right way from the risk perspective around protection, but also on the investment side whenever you have maybe very concentrated stock?
How much stock do you own of your company? Is it too much? You can own some, it's probably fine, but is that taking on more risk than you should? And then Chad's comment, do you have enough life insurance, disability insurance, which is something people overlook? And then if you own rental property, are you having an LLC, or if you consider it umbrella insurance, you have teenage drivers. These are all things that, as I mentioned before, as your life becomes more complex, when you're in your 20s, these usually don't come up. When you get in your 40s and 50s and near retirement, these are real problems that need to be solved.
We get whipsawed with news from so many different directions now, but in many times there's legislation changes that actually go through, and you're maybe not aware of all the ways that it can benefit you. We go through many webinars here, right, with our continuing education to keep up on how these things are impacting clients so that we can be proactive reaching out. But that is one of the big keys, is having an advisor that's reaching out to you, being proactive in the communication to keep you in the loop of how things are potentially benefiting you. And then the last one that probably gets put on the back burner for nearly everybody, the estate planning aspect, right? Making sure things are in order if something were to happen to you, having the right people there to execute that after the fact, making sure we've seen people come in with wills that were completed online, and maybe not signed. They got the documents done, but they never signed them. So just making sure, and as your life changes, are there trusts that need to be talked through? Are beneficiaries correct with family dynamics changing through the years? So there's many questions that happen there. And also the charitable aspect. Do you have charities thought about in those estate planning or in the tax planning earlier?
Yeah, I mean, end of life is never a fun discussion. I mean, it's like Chad mentioned, it's probably the number one thing that open for most of our clients to complete estate documents if they're not done already. But like you said, you want to make sure if something would happen to you, the assets and the money you have saved will go to who you want to go and how you want it to go. And that'd be through, beneficiary or trusts or wills. And that's part of the, a comprehensive planning work.
So that's a lot we threw at you today, but we wanted to give you a decent view of the questions and ideas and steps that we go through when we're working with a person that's never worked with a financial advisor before, because I think it is an important question that you want to have all of the information you can to make the best decision for you and your family. So to summarize, why would somebody that's been doing it yourself work with an advisor?
I think it's what we just walked through. I mean, you feel like your life has become more complex. You feel like you're missing opportunities. You're making mistakes. You need a professional in your corner to help, lead you in the right direction. But I think it is important that it is a big decision that you take your time, interview multiple firms, and then make the fit where you feel the most comfortable with the firm. Not necessarily the best, lowest fee, but the best value for what you're paying.
And remember, the fee is not just a cost, right? It is an investment, because over time, you hope by working with an advisor, your wealth increases in some fashion, maybe more than you would have had on your own, right? At least, or protections are put in place so that you have taken care of things you wouldn't on your own. So, as always, we're here, Financial Symmetry here in Raleigh. If you've checked us out before, we have 250 episodes or more now of the podcast. We have videos you can check out and many, many articles you can search on our website at financialsymmetry.com. We look forward to joining you again soon for our next episode.